Hey, you ever have problems or trouble understanding what MVC exactly is? This can be a relatively new concept to a relatively harder concept to a newer programmer or web developer. So in this video, I'm gonna do my best to kind of break MVC down to like understandable English so you can understand exactly what's going on. Thanks for coming to the channel. That's pretty much what I'm aiming to do with these videos I'm be producing. And let's get to it. So, what is MVC model? What is that? It stands for Model View Controller. And all it is just a way to break down our web applications as things get more complex. Before on the internet, years ago, typically you can just put everything in one file. Now you have bigger applications, you have a development team, you kind of want to break things up to where it's more manageable. Because if everything was just 10,000 lines chunked into one file, you have some trouble. Like on a Friday at 3 o'clock, you want to run some updates to your application. Well, guess what? Over the weekend, you're going to be spending a lot of time figuring out what went wrong because you end up changing something in the application instead of breaking things down into an object-oriented type of way. So that's what MVC model is what it tries to like solve the problem. So why do we use it? Again, it's just different benefits, really. How do we implement it? So it's everything starts with a controller, and it's different applications and different teams how they use it. There's utilized different ways. You hear different ways MVC model is utilized, but typically what happens is it start with a user. Like say for example, we got Trivago, and Trivago you'll go and request a flight, like what's available. You can pretty much see what's available, like a flight package or a deal, and that's what happens with a controller. It's pretty much the entry point. And what a controller does is it goes to the model, a database, which pretty much represents the data, and it will request that data and it will receive that data back. So it doesn't just do that, it also has some logic going on in the controller. And that's where you get your conditional logic, business logic, if then statements, try catch, and different things of that nature. So that's pretty much the controller. It's the brains of the whole operations. You know, again, it's implemented in different ways, but in a controller, that's when you have all that good old uh, code and logic and business logic. And here's an example. All this is a controller that has things in a try catch block. This is in a particular class. This is just a chunk of code that I took out just to kind of show an example of what I'm talking about. Like what do you mean by logic in a controller? So this is where you would place that code in a controller, and a try catch block. All you're saying is, hey, we want to try this code, and if there's an error, we want to catch that error, and we want to be able to present that to the user in a certain type of way. So you see here, you got try catch, you got an await keyword, which lets you know it's synchronous. You got if statements. So let me continue. So a model, again, all a model's job, separation of concerns, is to interact with the database. Like like C sharp, your models represents like database tables. Like you'll have like in Trivago example, you'll have like hotels, and in hotels it'd be like data type varchar in a database, or you can have a available yes or no. It's a boolean. So that represents the database, and all a model would do is it would go and query the database and stuff like that. Like when you're looking like JavaScript, you can, excuse me, you're looking at Python, you can like query the database, SQL statements, and it will return that to the controller. And in a controller, you have the logic, like I said before, and you also can have middleware in your controller. And all middleware is pretty much it sits between this right here, and it get the request and it also get the response, and it can say, hold up, before I give this data or before I take this data, let me kind of put something else to it or some more logic to it. Say, hey, listen, like when you have a JavaScript web token, you can say, hey, listen, if this particular user, if they don't have this token in their header, we're not giving them this data. We're going to go ahead and return a view and saying that you don't have access to this data for security. So that's what I mean by logic in that controller, and that's what I mean by model. It's in the database, right? So this is like an example of something you'll find in the database, right? Say data variable. This is pretty much referencing like this would be in this particular class. DB referencing the database connection dot get. So database will be an object, and we're going to get. We're going to select everything from users, the table where the ID equals 3, and you can kind of get that and return it to the controller. So view all a view would do is it would render that data. So the controller now would query the database, get that data from the database, add some logic to the database, um, and then we would give it to the view. And all of the view job is separation of concerns is to just present that to the user in a way that makes sense. So it would send the data to the view, and now the view would send that to the user, and it would send it to. And there's different ways to implement this. Like right here is inside of in a React, inside of React component. So you see here is just an H1 title. That's when you have like your CSS, HTML, CSS, and all that. Right here is just like how you would render dynamic data with handlebars. So like profile dot names dot notation, and is accessing the object named profile and attribute name. So that's all I wanted to do in this video is kind of in a simple way explain what exactly is MVC to like more newer developer to try to grasp hold of this thing. And it really, all it is really is just a way of doing things, breaking down the code in a way that's manageable. That's really all it is. So I hope you understand now. All right. So that is the end of the video. Thanks for watching.